Just stop it now. It's still snowing. I gotta show you this. Before we get into this, I know. My window's dirty, but I shoveled this damn step yesterday. And it's almost all back. Now, guy. Means I'm gonna have to dig out my van again. My van? You got like all these auto driving cars now. Okay. Well, when I park my van, okay, I'll show you the step here. My dog. I got a floppy ear there. Went out. Yeah, out you go. You see it's like almost up to the railing. I mean, the banks are 4 feet high. Okay. We're gonna get into this door. We got lots to cover, so in or out. She like goes to the door and stands there like for 5 minutes. Like, am I gonna go out or just let all the heat out of this? So see my van? It's like in a gully. Like I just let go of the wheel and it'll just go. And it stays there. Yeah, like I don't even have to steer like from about that point on. It just follows the rails. Yeah. Well, it looks like my uncle's got problems. The dead battery probably. But yeah, there's a lot of snow this year. I gotta go do another GoPro. Well, you can see my greenhouse. Mind you, there's wind drift there, but beside my boat, there's a Ford F-150, and you can barely see that. You can't see the, yeah. there's a lot of snow, And today, the temperature, I'm going to be doing, it's -2 right now, so I'm going to have to take a lot of this snow off, because if that gets really heavy, it's going to start busting stuff, like, I hate that. You almost can't keep up to it. Now, out east, they got about 2 feet. Now that I wasted almost 2 minutes and lost half my subscribers. Well, don't worry, I'll make it worth your while. If you've tuned in this long, I'll make it worth your while. Yeah, I don't know if I'm doing more World War III updates under Trump than I was under Obama. Check out my hat. There you go. But where do I start with the... Okay. Well, I guess I'll start here, I guess. No, maybe I'm going to start here. North Korean, oh yeah, my favorite, she was out there for victory for the missile test in North Korea. Now, a lot of stuff happening around that missile test. Iran started firing off missiles, the U.S. started firing off missiles. They fired a Minuteman missile out to, over the Marshall Islands, 4,200 miles. This comes on the heels of after Kim Jong, it's a response to Kim Jong-un. Now, the missile they fire, I don't know if it was the KN-41 or NK-41, but it looked like it was. It was something along that lines, and it's basically like the North Korean version of the Topol-M. It's a pretty crude-looking machine, but it is mobile. That's the thing about it. And it was a successful launch. So we had our North Korean lady out there. This lady's, again, I talk about her all the time. She's like, it made my day. They had it on RT, and you can go, just listen to her. It's so you don't know what she's saying, but it's so motivational. I don't know why. It's so passionate. For victory! Yeah. And then she's like, today was a cloudy day, but not enough clouds to stop our missile test. And our missile test, it went up into the sky for victory! like this lady, like, I can listen to this lady every day. Like, she's been there for, she's probably 185 years old, I swear to God. She's been there forever. She's like the only North Korean news lady, I think. And it's just, but it's always for victory! It's like, oh yeah. But she's so passionate about it. She's in the garb, the garb and everything. Oh yeah, it's awesome. So, lots going on in North Korea. I know I got things a bit scatterbrained in here, but as I find the information, right, so I mark it down. Good news for if you've got stocks in opium, because it looks like under the UN they're saying that in Afghanistan the opium trade is up by 47%. Yeah, thank God for democracy, JDAMs in the name of the women and children, right? Yeah. There's a big batch of helicopters that just got dropped off in Germany. The biggest, this is one of the biggest, NATO drills and stuff like that that's going up. Now, I think there's Black Hawks, which, okay, you could say Black Hawks going into Germany. They could be using that for a multitude of things. It's a very workhorse of a helicopter, troop transport. They could be using it for aid. They could be using it for all kinds of stuff. But they're also sending in Apaches, which Apaches are a pretty specialized killing machine. Probably the most deadly aircraft on the planet. It is a very good machine. Well proven itself. In fact, I think Canada, instead of having, I think we should have at least 500 Apache helicopters. I mean, or attack helicopter. Between the Eurocopter and the Apache, I don't know which one I'd like more. There's advantages to both. And if there was a third choice, that'd be the MIL-28 Havoc. That would be the third choice probably. After that, everything else like the Ruivok and the Z-10, I think, is what the Chinese have for their attack helicopter. And there's a bunch of them out there, but the best ones out there are definitely, I mean, the Apache's definitely more than proven itself. But I don't know how many helicopters were dropped off. But again, we see these big shipments to Germany. The shipments seem to go to Germany, and then they get passed to Eastern Europe. And with about 4,000 troops in Poland and hundreds of troops within 40 miles of the Russian border, yeah. Godwin's Law, this is something I couldn't figure out what I was talking about last time. We're seeing this all over the place. So basically, you agree with me, or you're Hitler. Yeah, that's basically almost every conversation about politics, given a certain timeline, will eventually, somebody will be compared to Hitler. We already see it with Trump, we've seen it with Obama. The only thing is, under Obama, there were similarities between Hitler and Obama, and major similarities too. I'm not saying Obama was a Hitler, but Obama was his own thing. But he was a genocidal maniac too. Obama's, over 4,000 people were killed under drone strikes. Funny how the left never, how they're not outraged by that. But that just shows you they're not critically thinking. I remember when John Cusack, the actor, was like, he goes, I can't support Obama anymore because he's murdering people, so to speak. Maybe not exact words, but it's like the drone strikes. He goes, what are the criteria for the drone strikes? What puts you on a drone strike list? We don't know what the criteria is, even still to this day, what constitutes the okaying of a drone strike. You know what I mean? And the amount of women and children that were killed in the drone strikes too, like there's over 1,200 of them were killed. So yes, okay, they might have gotten a few jihadis, but it looks like it's a very reckless program. So, what's its real purpose, that type of thing. So yeah, people need to be objective on that. Same way you need to be objective with Trump. And we're starting to get a bit of that, you see with Alex Jones, unfortunately, and Next News, where they're so pro-Trump that they're starting to do what the mainstream media is doing, where they're like, Trump can do no wrong. Well, Trump is doing wrong, and the thing is why. Luke We Are Change, I think, is on the other side, where he's a natural skeptic, so... and the same thing with the X-22 report. You hear him talk about, say, well, look, Trump has promised a lot, but he hasn't really delivered anything, and that's true. He hasn't really delivered much. Oh, yeah, but all the jobs that are coming back, yeah, but those jobs, they're still theoretical. There are jobs popping up, which is good, so maybe if he goes for the deregulation part, managed to right in here, he could get the economy rolling again, then it'll lighten the blow when he hits the reset button. I'm sure that's what Trump is setting up for, but rather than, I think he needs to concentrate on small business more than these big corporations, because these big corporations, they're already, you could try to squeeze them a bit to move their plants and stuff back here, or down to the States there, but the small business, you can go out, you can help them right away, and you'll probably get 10 times more employees, we're talking millions and millions of jobs, by lifting the tax, lifting the Obamacare thing, so people can hire more employees, et cetera, et cetera. So, let's say the average small business can only hire an extra 2 employees, okay, but times that by millions of small businesses. There's only a handful of major corporations out there. There's not as many as you think, right? So the real bread and butter is the small business, that type of thing. So the Orville Dam fails. Now, there's some rumors out there, and I haven't looked into it too deep. This conspiracy theory at this point is that the Russians might have something to do with this. I don't know what they would have, but again, did the Russians burn your toast this morning? So, not sure where that story's coming out of, but it's something that's, people are speculating on. Man warns of 50 to 80% collapse in stock market. This comes from AMTV. That's Christopher Green. And I think that's probably not correct. It's probably going to be like 90% collapse in stocks because it's so artificial when it happens. But the thing is, when is it going to happen? That's the thing. I still say no collapse till war comes unless Trump hits the reset button. Now, will Trump hit the reset button? Well, I think that's what all this deregulation and all that stuff is about. That this is what the word on the grapevine is, and that makes total sense. That if your economy was to collapse overnight and you're starting up with no regulations, you can get the ball rolling right away. So you can hit the reset button. Now, there's another video I'm going to make is why Trump has to hit that reset button, why he has to actually collapse the economy, probably within the next couple of months, maybe even within the next 60 days. He actually has to cause the economic collapse. Yeah. The short of it is that at this point it could still be blamed on the Obama and Democrats, but then he can go after the bankers. That's probably what the main fight is right now. This is probably, and if he can, but if he does that, like again, everybody bleeds no matter what. Like there's no way out of this without violence. There's no way out of this without. The only thing I'm hoping for is we can get out of this without war. Like, civil war. Okay, that's bad enough. But my uncle going down. That's bad enough. But people will survive that. The masses will survive that. The smart people that know that it's orchestrated will just get out of the way. I'm warning people as much as I can when you see this stuff, get out of the way. It's basically the world is a stage. It's designed to happen. They want this to happen so that they have something to blame it on. But the people that don't engage in it, they'll be much safer. Their families will be safer. And more importantly, you will prepared so that when they go for the rebound, we can catch them on the rebound. Because the world elites, I don't really think they're going to be able to pull it off this time. There's just too many people that are in the know. And when there is a march on Washington saying, we're going in there, you're either going to have to, the Army's either going to have to shoot all of us, we're going in there and we are arresting people. We are going to do citizens arrest. You guys failed. You guys won't uphold rule of law. We will. And if they open fire on the people, then you'll have a civil war. And you'll probably have a military coup long before that. Right now they are trying very hard, it looks, to overthrow the Trump presidency. You can see, even here on the CBC, that they're already starting with the Russians communicating with the Russians. No proof. They even admit that they have no proof. But they're going to run with that story. A non-story. They're going to run with a non-story. And we're going to talk about Flynn in a moment. But anyway. Something to keep in mind, supply management with food. We're talking 18-wheelers. There's usually no more than 2 days of food on hand at a time. I always give rice a plug. Buy rice, buy beans. Oh, yeah, that's right, I got a dog outside. Why is my dog barking at? I was like, wait a minute, I left my dog outside. I always give rice a plug. It's cheap. If you guys know something that you can buy in bulk, like rice, that's as cheap as rice, put it down below. I tend to be limited on stuff like that sometimes, but the case in point is that got a snow dog. You got dandruff. No, I don't. I got snow in my toast. You got your toast. Oh, there we go. My girl's got her toast. I'm all stuffed up today. It's like so dry. It's like, sorry. It always happens in the winter where it just gets so dry, you're like, you can't breathe almost. Oh, well, what can you do? So, as I was saying, yeah, that shows you that how quickly a crisis could manifest, especially with the food crops as low as they are. And I have a feeling March is going to be quite devastating as far as weather goes, because we're going to go more mild during the day, and I think we're going to get just heap tons of snow. If this is what we're getting in February, March is going to be a nightmare. But that also might mean a longer time before the growing season starts, and who knows what kind of growing season we're going to have, especially if it is going to be getting cooler. Okay, so anyway, of course they're saying China's out there helping North Korea with its nuclear program, U.S. war on Chinese banks. Basically, same old here. The missiles that North Korea is firing off look like Chinese missiles because they're Chinese missiles. I don't think the Chinese are giving them missiles, but it's like, here's the blueprint. But it's the same with the Iranians. They've had Iranian scientists going back and forth to North Korea for years. I think what happens is the North Koreans basically sell missile technology to the Iranians, and in return, the Iranians help with the enrichment of whatever. Now, the other thing they could do is, or the Iranians are helping with the missile technology, and the other way around, the North Koreans are actually, here's a warhead for your troubles. Now, back in 2010, again, don't be afraid to go over some of my older World War III updates. I know there's probably a few thousand of them out there, but one of the things is that they caught a ship, a North Korean merchant ship, in 2010 full of missiles going to Iran. And North Korea and Iran, I guess they still do trade, but not very much, but they are doing trade. That said, the Chinese and the Russians, I think by the end of March or April or May, I can't remember what month it was, we're going to, because the yuan renminbi is not ready for full reserve currency status yet. But what they want to do is, and India is with this and all that, they want to bring it out as a basket of currencies, so you can pick through a whole bunch of currencies. And I think this is the play China has to make right now anyway, although it would be more powerful than the ruble, it would be more powerful than, I forget what the Indian currency is, and stuff like that, or the Iranian currencies. The key is that it gives China time to build up their currency and trade, like here in Canada with Justin Trudeau opening up a new Chinese investment bank here in Canada. We don't need this thing. So and basically it's basically another central bank, but instead of with this investment bank, okay, basically all that infrastructure spending that Justin Trudeau wants to do, he wants to borrow the money from that bank at a higher interest rate than what we would have paid from the Bank of Canada. Yeah, the way I'm understanding it anyway. Surprise, surprise. David Steele, Robert David Steele. This is the guy I was trying to think of the other day in my video. I couldn't think of it. Talking about won the election basically by accident, and that Hillary played the anti-Russia thing too soon, and Jeb Bush was just too dull type of thing, but he wasn't supposed to win. And that, I think, is a high possibility that Trump did win by accident, not because not enough people voted, but a few factors. Number one, again, I know some people Reg, you were wrong about Trump not winning. Yeah, and I was. And I bought the $100 worth of, well, actually it was a little more than $100. It was like 100 and whatever it was, $104 worth of food for the homeless shelter, which I never read you the thank you note. I did get the thank you note. And the thing is the reason why I was saying Trump wasn't going to win because it was so rigged. The same reason why the stock market hasn't crashed yet. It's so rigged. And it's still rigged. Everything is still rigged. Nothing has really changed. I mean, the players are there. It's just the only thing that's riled up is you got a fox in the hen house. That's it. That type of thing. That's the only noise that's being made. But really, everything is still on schedule. I'm watching this as neutral as I can because I don't want to be that. Oh, Trump's the best, and then bang, we're freaking in World War III, and it's like, how did that come about? Like, Trump was supposed to keep us out of this stuff. But what I'm looking at is the capitulations that Trump is being made, that he's making. He might be doing for survival, so they don't knock him off. But it also looks like the real race right now is for him to make it to the end of the 100 days or whatever. After that, I think he's set in for the rest of the 4 years. But if they can disprove Trump, I think that's what they're trying to. He's trying to get ahead of them. There's a hell of a chess game going on here. He's trying to get ahead of them. And remember, he doesn't really have anybody on his side. This is why he needs to reach out to the people a bit more. That I 100% agree with Mr. Steele on that. That the people need to be his Congress. The people need to be his Senate. The people need to be out there backing him. And right now he's only got the GOP people. He doesn't have the Libertarians. He doesn't have too many people on the left. That type of thing. So it's not even a play to moderation. It's a play to, for example, appeal to the Bernie Sanders people, saying, "Hey, you know what? Hillary Clinton rigged the election away from Bernie Sanders. We're gonna go after those people." The Bernie people will be like, "Okay, I don't like Trump, but yes," Then again, putting Hillary Clinton in jail would be a big step forward. But however, it's a tricky thing to pull off because right now what they're trying to do is find a way to delegitimize Trump so that what's going on is they're going to try to make the states ungovernable. That's one method, and that's where all these agitators are coming in, your Antifas, which I think something like 230 Antifas were arrested. They're going to be getting like 10-year sentences. Good riddance. Yeah, good riddance. And stuff like that. So Trump is doing some good things, don't get me wrong. But he really needs to, where I disagree with David Steele, Robert David Steele, is that he's like, well, never mind putting these people in jail. They're too big, they're too powerful, I'm ex-intelligence. What he needs to do is say, okay, instead, just get the truth out. And then, kind of like a truth amnesty. Okay, you just come forward, say what you've done, whatever. And I completely disagree with that. No, because these people will never stop doing this. And the thing is Trump was basically voted in to drain the swamp. But the swamp is fighting back. And the thing about that is, if Trump fails, I mean, trust me, we are very close to a war with the Russians. The Russians aren't stupid. I think they're trying to work with Trump, but he's a sheep surrounded by wolves. So, it goes and it goes. And one of the things he talked about was to basically do the 12 electoral reforms. And if he was to be able to pull off, if Trump was able to pull off the 12 electoral reforms, that it would basically, if he doesn't do that, he's a dead man walking. The other thing he was saying was basically what they might try to do is basically, drug his food to make him incoherent, that type of thing. So that is a possibility. We'll have to watch that. But I don't know. Trump does seem pretty sharp. He doesn't seem like he's slowing. I mean, this is a guy that works 18, 20 hours a day for the fun of it, that type of thing. But again, when he's got no friends, so there was a couple of theories that Trump was going to get in, he was going to fix everything. The other theory was he's going to get in, no one's going to work with him at all, and nothing will get done in 4 years, which is better than Hillary Clinton, no matter how you look at it. The other thing is he's in there, and actually, new boss the same as the old boss. So, there's people that have to, and again, leading up, and nobody can call me on this, but I was consistent all the way up to the election that if Trump did get in, we wouldn't know for sure. It'd be a while before we knew if he was really on the people's side or not. I think he's signaling that he is, but there's a lot of things that he's doing. For example, his stance on Iran, his stance on China is what worries me. And my theory there, and again, you can track it through, because there's something, well, you were wrong, and then of course everything else I said goes out the window for these people. But they're like, what I said, and again, I remember because, it's the same way I feel now, is that, sure, he might give you a whole bunch of little things. He'll give you the wall. He'll give you, even economic prosperity. But then the Israelis are just putting him in there so we can find a new way to go to war with Iran. And that's what it looks like is happening. It looks like Trump is on board to go to war with Iran. Not so much with Russia, but, I mean, if Obama was Obama was saber-rattling Russia and China and Iran, but more Russia and China. So now we just got to switch it. We don't win if that's the case. We don't win. And again, we'll have to see what Trump does. The Goldman Sachs 9, these are the people that Trump has appointed around himself. People have, again, getting rid of the Dodd-Frank Act, which is that was a big bell. But there could be another, if he's getting ready to hit the reset button, okay, and gets rid of Dodd-Frank, maybe there's something in Dodd-Frank, if we want to be optimistic, that he's doing, that when he hits the reset button, he can now get rid of the too big to fail. That could be the possibility. I don't know. And fractional voting, this is something that Mr. Steele also talked about. But anyway, we'll have to keep an eye on it. I'm not saying Trump is on the other side yet, but people have their suspicions, and rightfully so. We have to be intellectually honest on how we're going to go about this, because remember, we've been screwed up to this point. If this is a win, okay, we have to look at, okay, he's doing this good, he's doing that bad, whatever. But if we don't want to be setting ourselves up for a massive letdown, we have to point out, so far Trump is doing things kind of 50-50 to a good degree. But at the end of the day, when we look at what's actually been accomplished, now mind you, it's only a month in, so we can't say too much. In that first 30 some odd days, what we have seen is him renege a little bit on his stances, but we've really seen him do a lot of stuff too, but mostly by executive fiat. So that doesn't make it necessarily law right away. So there's a lot of things that have to be done before we can see actual hard wins with Trump. So yes, a lot of people have promised to bring jobs back to the United States, but will they? That type of thing. This is what we got to keep with Trump, is watching that. Now, keeping on. Obama's colored revolution. And an anti-Trump. Basically, Obama's setting up shop in Washington, and it looks like it's for these agitators. I will have a video coming out on the 12 rules for radicals. I was listening to Canadian Prepper last night. Again, check out his channel. His channel is just fantastic. And he brought up a subversion program. I heard him bring it up. That's the first time I've heard him bring it up. Maybe he talked about it before, but it's the first time I heard him bring it up. And that's one thing that I think people really need to be aware of, is the subversion programs. And then I've also heard Sargon of Akkad finally, after years, talk about subversion programs. I think some people are just they're aware of it, but they don't realize how important it is to what's going on around the world. And one of the ways they manifest this is through the rules of radicals, right? Solinsky tactics. The U.S. is sending 2 destroyers to the Red Sea off the coast of Yemen. I guess this comes on the the heels of the. I don't know how many Saudi ships have been hit by the Yemenis. The Saudis aren't doing too well against them. Okay, Michael Flynn. Okay. Some people were saying this would have been Trump's best pick, and Trump did pick this man. And now it comes out that, oh, well, he's basically, under investigation for talking to Russian ambassadors about, dropping sanctions, whatever. And he's now been kind of let go, fired, kind of pick one, that type of thing. But there's a lot about this guy. Number one, he was a Democrat. Number two, this guy was involved in just about every major operation you could possibly imagine, quite well decorated. This guy did seem to be a bit of a truther to a degree. So it looks like what they were probably doing is one of two things. Either running defense for Pence, basically, throwing him under the bus than Pence. So if that's the case, it's, whatever. However, if that would have been, that it could also be the deep state trying to remove this man because this man is more dangerous than probably what Trump is because what he would know. So they're getting him out of there. Now that Trump, he has one less of the very few people that he has that he can trust. Now the deep state could put in somebody else or just here, pick from these people, and these people are all going to be working for the deep state. And then the information, Trump won't get the proper information. So, yeah, very, very scary. The other thing, too, is about the Vault 7 thing. I don't know if you guys heard about the Vault 7. Nobody knows what that is, but that might have something to do with it. And there's also, they're pulling out on, Hillary Clinton did a tweet about fake news and, getting even for Pizzagate with, Flynn. Very strange kind of tweet she did, but, that's kind of what's going on there. Okay, getting back into the other stuff. Something that Trump is doing is U.S. immigration officers arrest 680 illegals, 75% with criminal background, criminal records. So it looks like they're going to deport these people. Now, believe it or not, this is actually a form of austerity because these people were probably on welfare and stuff like that. So I think Trump, if he's going to do these, go after the sanctuary cities, that's the way to go. If you haven't seen the Trump-Trudeau meeting, I watched. It's about 26 minutes. The handshake is something phenomenal to watch. Trudeau was kind of ready for him. Trump, he's one of those old bastards that try to pull your arm off in a handshake. It's an alpha male thing. Farmers are like that too, though. Some punk kid will go to shake his hand, they'll nearly pull his arm off and crush his fingers, right? Crush his hand. That's what these old bastards do. They're all like that. I'll be like that too. I'm already like that. So get the death grip. Lock hands. Because you can tell a lot about a man by his handshaking. I forget what ambassador it was, like one of these Middle Eastern ambassadors or whatever. Trump was shaking his hand. It's like I thought he was going to pull the guy to the ground. It was hilarious. But Trudeau's like, I'm ready. I was like, kind of like, I think he's everyone like on the 1,000-yard stare. And then the memes coming out of it. If you haven't seen the memes, they got a picture of Trump shaking Trudeau's hand is finally proof that Trump grabbed the pussy. I laugh when I cry. I mean, unfortunately, that's my prime minister. Unfortunately. Oh, well, what can you do, right? Trump made a bizarre statement. Again, with Trump, these are the things that make people worried. And maybe, I don't know if it's just Trump being Trump and he has no filter and he just kind of blurts things out. But he was talking about how Russia will have to, is going to return Crimea to the Ukraine. That's war talk. That is big-time war talk. The things that went happen, the Russians aren't giving up the Ukraine, the Crimea, period. That's never going to happen. Not without missiles flying through the air. And then, of course, we get to the douchebag of the century there. Lindsey Graham and John McCain over there, year of the offensive in the Ukraine. I don't know if you saw that little clip. But basically, they're trying to fan the flames of war in the Ukraine. I think what they really want is for the Ukrainian military to make a run into Russia, to start pushing the war that way. I think that's what they want. That would be suicide for them. The Ukraine is going to be sacrificed no matter what. I believe what the original intentional goal was to get Russia to roll tanks into the Ukraine, crush the Ukraine, run it up to Transnistria, and then up to the Polish border, and then put NATO on extreme high alert everywhere, that type of thing. And then Kaliningrad would, I mean, the Russians are building this up, but they did it without having to, again, they could bleed out this civil war, East Ukraine, West Ukraine. They could bleed this out for 20 years if they want. It's not costing them anything, that type of thing. A bit of older equipment, that's it. So the Russians still have the upper hand there, but it's scary when Trump is talking rhetoric like that. That's very undiplomatic, but that's a Trump kind of thing. He's not a diplomat. He's a businessman. He's he shakes people's hand like that. So that's how that it translates. But when people that voted for him hear that kind of language, they hear WW3. That's what they hear. Now that said, the Russians are starting to test Trump a bit, and we'll get into that. PewDiePie. I don't know how PewDiePie got into a World War III update, but it looks like basically he's been fired by Disney. Basically, this guy makes like $15 million a year. This guy is he's got 50 million subscribers. It's just ridiculous. If I could get that kind of success, but maybe a guy like that can use his power for good and become a truther and whatever. But anyway, with $15 million, fire me. I don't care. You know what I mean? I could live off of $15 million. I'll just leave it in my bed. I'll live off the interest. You know what I mean? The interest off of $15 million a month. If you had $15 million in just living off the interest is probably I'd be living in a mansion probably. I don't know what the interest would be off that, but even if it was 0.1% interest, you're probably still doing pretty damn good. It's yeah. But anyway, he did some sort of anti-Semite video. I think it was a spoof video. I didn't watch it, but it was showed two African guys and Bush guys there, and one guy goes "Death to all Jews" with a sign or whatever. And apparently that was enough to take their, to whack their prize racehorse in the shin with a crowbar, I guess. But stuff like that. And then here's how it works. Again, yes, I'm critical of Zionism and the neocons. And again, all these people that we're talking about are pretty much neocons. Graham and McCain and stuff like that, these psychotic bastards. And that type of thing. Yes, I talk about the Greater Israel Project. I talk about those things, the Clearly Plan, Balfour Declaration, all those things. I talk about the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, Zygmunt Brzezinski, George Soros, Henry Kissinger. I talk about those people. And yes, they happen to be Jews. I don't think there's a Jew behind it. There's no Jew behind that. The reason why there's not a Jew under my remote trying to get me is because the Russians did it, right? So, I'm practical at that. But when people see this, okay, you can't criticize the Jews at all, even in a spoof, and then that's what gives the rise to the Nazi types, you know what I mean? They just don't see it. Again, for people that are supposed to be really smart, they're kind of stupid sometimes. Sometimes you just let sleeping dogs lie and things will go away. But anyway, here in Canada, it's either Bill C-30 or Bill C-31. Passed 100% unanimously, trade deal with the Ukraine, between Canada and the Ukraine. Now, the thing about this is, I don't know what all is in this trade. They passed a whole bunch of bills in the House of Commons yesterday. Bill C-37, Bill C-30, and Bill C-31. One was CETA. It got passed, and yes, almost, I think there was maybe 47 people against it, and I forget the rest. It was 170 some odd for it out of the 300. So 308 or 304 seats in Parliament. So in other words, CETA is going to be bad for us. It's going to be bad. It's going to be great for the corporations, great for globalism, bad for us. It's going to be great for the IMF. The only thing that might stop it or hold it up is Austria. And Austria and Belgium, I think, are the two main holdups between CETA and TTIP. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But right now, again, how bad is it going to be? I don't know. These secret trade deals, who knows? And there's a new Trans-Pacific Trade Partnership. I forget what they're calling it this time. But they just kind of basically repackage it and resubmit it and stuff like that. So They never stop. The elites never stop. And it's never in our interest. Oh my God, my poor cat. Poor Missy. Yeah, you're a snow cat, eh? You're a catsicle. Poor girl. So full of snow on the bottom. Look at all the snow you're tracking in the house. I don't see Kazoo doing that, but he never goes outside. He's like, I'm not going to. My cat Kazoo, if he were to step off the deck, he would sink to the bottom of the snow like a freaking bowling ball. Like he's a fat little bastard. I love him, but still. Trump again talking about, tough on Iran, kind of war with Iran, that type of thing. That worries me because a war with Iran is going to be a war with Russia and China in the end of it. That's who's next. That means when Rumsfeld was out there talking about 7 countries in 5 years or whatever, which are a little bit behind schedule. But that means if we go to war with Iran, then Trump was a puppet. Oh, you're all wet. I don't touch you. You. Off my chair. You're all full. Back, you beast. Back. Look at all the snow on you. Eh? Look at all the snow on you. You're getting the chair away. Back, you beast. Off you go. Eh? Oh, look at all the snow. Interrupt my video. Oh, man. No. Thanks a lot. Again, I said that during the campaign, too. His stance on Iran was worrying some. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Tiger forces of the SAA. There's about 1,000 guys, mostly made up of Alawites. And these guys apparently, when they came in, this is part of the Syrian Arab Army. They're one faction of it. There's the Desert Hawks. There's the Cheetah Brigade. There's a whole bunch of them there. But the Tiger forces, apparently these guys haven't suffered one loss since 2013. They're not that big, but I guess because they're so unified. Some of the problems they have, like for example with the Kurdish forces and stuff like that, the Kurds will only fight in the Kurdish areas, and this is the problems they have that they had with the Syrian Arab Army in the beginning was because it's so tribal, it just fractioned off, and this side's not going to go fight in that area. They'll fight in this area, but not that area because they're like they only care about their own, right? So that became a problem. But these Tiger Force guys, they go everywhere. Like these guys are the badasses of the badasses. So I can imagine these guys were probably the guys trained up by the Spetsnaz with the Russians. So like I said before, Syrian Spetsnaz. But these guys, they haven't suffered a single defeat. Not bad for a desert brigade of guys, really not that well armed when you really think about it. They got tanks, but I mean they're driving T-63s and T-55s, handful of T-72s. Maybe the odd T-90 might make it their way. But for 1,000 guys to pull off what they've pulled off so far is quite impressive. Take this one with a grain of salt. This could be fake news. I don't know. But apparently Putin, this is coming from Next News Network, which is pretty reliable, but they're picking up the story from somewhere else. And it looks like Putin might throw Snowden under the bus and send Snowden back to the States, I guess as an honor, as a gift for what, who knows. He called him a traitor and a spy, which we know he's spy, quadruple spy. We know Snowden is a spy, but is he a double spy, a triple spy? We know he's a spy. He openly admits he's a spy. It's just to what degree, right? But did Putin do that? I don't know. But something to keep in mind. Geert Wilders, somebody asked me about Geert Wilders. He's talking about if he wins, I think the Austrian election is next month. If he wins, one of the things he's going to do is close the borders over there in Austria. And basically de-Islamify Canada, or Austria, that type of thing. Will he do it? We've heard a lot of people do that. Marine Le Pen's also signaling to do that too, kicking people out of the country. They're going to have to do it anyway. It's that or war, right? So, in Texas, they're now starting to show CNN in the classrooms to propagandize the kids. See, this is real news. This is, yeah. Now, what do we got left here? Yeah. Okay, so. All right, so. Kim Jong-un's brother. Yeah, I don't know if you heard, he got assassinated by a Vietnamese lady. Basically, I think what I heard was two ladies ran up to him. That your liking? Two ladies ran up to him. You have to work for my affection. Two ladies ran up to him with needles, and one stabbed him with a needle and apparently died. This is Kim Jong-un's half-brother. I have a few theories. Theory one, Kim Jong-un being so crazy, He had him killed. I mean, this is a guy who had his aunt and uncle executed. Half brother would be less kin than an aunt and uncle. You know what I mean? Like it's like so. That's scenario 2. He has nothing to do with it. Scenario 3. Basically, right after North Korea's missile test, hey, you got a snowball on there. That's your own fault. You brought it in. You stepped on the snow. NATO or the U.S. basically don't throw the snow at me. Throw it at yourself. She's got ice on her paw, poor thing. Poor paws are all cold. Get off me with your right feet. You're pain today. Anyway, you're also distracting me here. Animals always interrupting my videos. Anyway, they could have done this. No, you're all wet. They could have done this to rile up Kim Jong-un. Second one, States has nothing to do with it. The next one could be the Chinese are doing it as a message to Kim Jong-un, stop it with the missile tests. Like mellow the hell out. Like we'll back you, whatever, but you're riling them up too much. You're giving, they've got missiles. When the missiles are flying towards you, they're flying towards us. So you got, the U.S. firing missiles, basically Minuteman missiles over the Marshall Islands, right? So that's getting close to China. So, I mean, it's still a good piece away, but it's getting close to China. It's in their direction. So that could be the other thing. The other scenario is God knows what the guy's into. Maybe it's a drug deal gone bad, whatever. So something to keep an eye on. But yeah, Kim Jong, I had no idea he had a half brother, but he doesn't anymore. And we'll have to see what. But if it is a provoking to get Kim Jong-un really riled up, to see if he would fire a missile at the United States or South Korea, that is a possibility to get a war started. At this point, the bankers are desperate. Okay, which brings us to the final news of the day. I'm sure there's going to be more, but Russian spy ships about doing 10 knots, just about 70 miles off the coast of Delaware, outside the 12-mile U.S. coastal limit. Nobody really knows where this thing is going, that type of thing, and most likely it's probably going to Cuba or Venezuela. Usually that's where they usually end up. So that was, I think, last night. Obviously, they would have known this thing was, for a few days to a week, they would have known this thing was on its way. But it's just the surveillance ships, which do tend to go off the coast. You see them in the Gulf of Mexico all the time. There's probably a submarine or two following it, I would imagine. Now, that said, NATO's out there talking about Russia's new cruise missile. And apparently this broke a 1987 treaty. This missile, okay, the Russians have a few, talk about the Kursk for a second. The day the Kursk was sunk, they were debuting for the Chinese, impossible to sell the Chinese this underwater torpedo called the Scaval. Still to date, it's the fastest underwater object, I think, ever, man-made or not. It's the fastest underwater object. It does something like 300 knots underwater. And what it does is it's a wedge-shaped torpedo. But it has like a little gas bubble that comes out and covers the torpedo like in an air pocket, like in an air bubble, as it's going, which parts the water, which allows it to slice. There's almost zero resistance on this this bubble. And what it does is it basically makes it an underwater rocket. Now, how maneuverable are they? I don't know. How accurate are they? I don't know. I think they're more like a ballistic underwater rocket. They probably can maneuver to a degree, and then once they're right on target, they blast off, and this air bubble comes out of the cone and covers, basically a cavitation. Through cavitation of that bubble, the rocket is inside that bubble, and it just moves like mad stink. And on the day the Kursk was sunk, that's what they were debuting. Now, these other torpedoes they've got, which leaked out, I guess, 2 years ago or a couple of years ago, whatever, that nuclear torpedo. The idea is they fire this big, heavy torpedo into the middle of a naval harbor and just detonate it, and it just wipes out all the ships in the harbor. The other one that they're talking about now it looks like it's this cruise missile torpedo where it comes out and it acts as a torpedo until it gets, say, within a few thousand meters of a ship. And then while they're busy trying to put out decoys and everything, anti-torpedo stuff for the warships, while they're doing that, all of a sudden the thing pops up, or blasts the back end off it, like a rocket, and then comes out of the water and then turns into basically a gliding cruise missile. And it then hits the warship, which you'd have only a few seconds to counter this thing, so it would make it very, very deadly. And apparently this thing, now I don't know what the report is on it. I wasn't understanding what they were writing here, but it made it sound like they fired this thing 200 yards from a U.S. destroyer near the area. Don't quote me on that, because it's just when I was reading, I had to read the article 2 or 3 times, and I'm like, whoa, this would be all over the news if they did this, right? So I don't know what they were. So if that was let off 200 feet from a U.S. destroyer, that's definitely scary. And that this happened between Romania and the Crimea in the waters there. And of course, there was 4 Russian jets buzzing the USS Porter, about 186 miles, 186 miles off on the Black Sea on the Crimea. In Romania, that area, 3 Su-24s and 1 Il-38, which the Il-38 is it's basically a maritime patrol aircraft. So apparently it came out, and 2 Su-24s came out, and then a little bit later on another Su-24 came out and buzzed the warships. But again, the United States is over here, Russia's over here, so who really has the right to be in that water? And again, if I'm sure the Russian warship, the U.S. Navy had all kinds of stuff watching it as it went by, that electronics warfare ship. So these, I don't know if people, it's not super alarming, but it's one of those things that, these surveillance ships, I don't know how powerful the Russian stuff is, but it probably does pick up a lot of communications. And, within 70 miles, it could probably pick up stuff 400 miles away. So it'd probably be spying on the coastal ports, I would imagine. And then, of course, it'd probably end up in either Venezuela or Cuba. That ship, I think, goes back twice a year. It seems to go back and forth to Venezuela and Cuba. Well, there are always, ships going back and forth. It might be relieving another ship. I don't know what the intentions of that ship is. But it is definitely, again, it's the kind of Cold War-esque kind of stuff. Especially recently, Putin out there telling the Air Force and the Army, prepare for war. We've got along. What are you doing up there? If you can't be trouble over here, you're going to be trouble over there. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. She's like like saber rattling all the time. But anyway, that's the thing. Like it's. The escalations are unbelievable historically speaking. The amount of troops, and Donald Trump doesn't seem to be going against de-escalating the troops. Now, mind you, if he was going to use it as bargaining chips, that's one thing. But so far, the buildup of Eastern Europe for war is mainstream ahead. That hasn't dialed back at all. In fact, if anything, it's increased. So that's that is a concern. I'm still more worried about what Trump's going to do with Iran. It's just a rhetoric of we're going to get you kind of. And again, there's no reason to go after Iran. I know Trump doesn't like Iran. I know Trump doesn't like China. But again, if the people get the indication that Trump is just as bad as Hillary Clinton was going to be, then there's going to be hell to pay at home for that. This is where Trump, if he's just being Trump, where he can drop the ball. I think he needs to deal with Iran. Actually, I think he needs to put that on the shelf. Iran isn't attacking anybody. There's no reason to worry about Iran. I know what he said during the campaign and stuff about Iran. That's why I was concerned about it. So is this just another, Israeli neocon Zionist plot? Say, okay, well, we'll pretend we're pro-Russia, and we'll attack China economically, and then, maybe see if we can get something started in the South China Sea. Again, that blockade hasn't happened yet. That was, but when we hear rhetoric like that, you know what I mean? That's the thing. So it does make it a bit of a wild card. This is why it's so hard to tell if Trump is the good guy or the bad guy. I still have a hunch he's probably a good guy, but I think he's a little bit misinformed on some stuff, or he has biases that are dangerous. Iran has not attacked anybody in 200 years. Even if you could say, well, no, Iran is the number one terrorist, they basically help terrorists, whatever, supporting terrorism. But that's not true. It would be more like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, or Israel. Israel and the United States and other countries have basically funded ISIS. They're the number one terrorist organizations, supporters. That's just fact and reality. It doesn't matter where your biases lie. If ISIS is 20,000 guys, it's huge. You know what I mean? Or maybe 60,000, whatever they are. The billions and billions and billions of dollars spent on ISIS through the CIA. Again, openly admitted. That's the thing. All this stuff is openly admitted. Through the CIA, through the State Department, calling them moderate rebels when they're not. John McCain out there pretty much admits it. They all admit it. They just try to spin it. That's all. But anyway, we'll have to keep an eye on what's going on. So far, yes, it's only 30 days, so I think it's going to take about at least the first year and a half to know where Trump really sets on it. If he keeps us out of war, I'm okay with that. But if he takes us to war, then, at that point, the U.S., there's going to have to be an actual hard military coup in the States, and they will actually have to, coup the entire Congress, and including the intelligence services. These people, they're going to get everybody killed in a war. The other thing that the indications of the world elites heading towards their bunkers in mad stink, this is also alarming as well. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. So if you like this kind of content, please consider making a donation to the channel. Links down below. Thank you so much to everybody who has. Next time, rate, subscribe, share, comment, like. You treat yourself, you treat others. Always do the right thing, and you can get it. Have yourselves a great day. I'll pet it from here. There, see? You like that? There you go. All right. G'day, hi, and welcome. Stop it, damn you. Stop it. Just stop it now. It's still snowing. I gotta show you this. Before we get into this, I know. My window's dirty, but I shoveled this damn step yesterday. And it's almost all back. Proud guy. Means I'm gonna have to dig out my van again. My van? You got all these auto-driving cars now? Okay. But when I park my van, okay, I'll show you the step here. My dog, I got a floppy ear there. Went out. Yeah, out you go. You see it's almost up to the railing. I mean, the banks are 4 feet high. Okay. We're going to get into this door. We've got lots to cover, so in or out. She goes to the door and stands there for 5 minutes. Can I get out, or just let all the heat out of this? So see my van? It's in a gully. I just let go of the wheel and it'll just go. It stays there. Yeah, I don't even have to steer from about that point on. It just follows the rails. Yeah. Well, it looks like my uncle's got problems. Dead battery probably. But there's a lot of snow this year. I got to go do another GoPro. Well, you can see my greenhouse. Mind you, there's wind drift there, but beside my boat, there's a Ford F-150, and you can barely see that. You can't see the... Yeah. there's a lot of snow, And today, the temperature... I'm going to be doing... It's -2 right now, so I'm going to have to take a lot of this snow off, because if that gets really heavy, it's going to start busting stuff, I hate that. You almost can't keep up to it. Now, out east, they got about 2 feet. Now that I wasted almost 2 minutes and lost half my subscribers. Well, don't worry. I'll make it worth your while. If you've tuned in this long, I'll make it worth your while. And yeah, I don't know if I'm doing more World War III updates under Trump than I was under Obama. Check out my hat. There you go. But where do I start with the... Okay. Well, I guess I'll start here, I guess. No, maybe I'm going to start here. North Korean... oh, yeah, my favorite... She was out there for victory for the missile test in North Korea. Now, a lot of stuff happening around that missile test. Iran started firing off missiles. The U.S. started firing off missiles. They fired a Minuteman missile out to over the Marshall Islands, 4,200 miles. This comes on the heels of after Kim Jong. It's a response to Kim Jong-un. Now, the missile they fire, I don't know if it was the KN-41 or NK-41. But it looked like it was. It was something along that lines, and it's basically like the North Korean version of the Topol M. It's a pretty crude-looking machine, but it is mobile. That's the thing about it. And it was a successful launch. So we had our North Korean lady out there. This lady's, again, I talk about her all the time. She's like, it made my day. They had it on RT, and you can go, just listen to her. It's so you don't know what she's saying, but it's so motivational. I don't know why. It's so passionate. For victory! Yeah. And then she's like, today was a cloudy day, but not enough clouds to stop our missile test. And our missile test, it went up into the sky for victory! It's like this lady, I can listen to this lady every day. She's been there she's probably 185 years old. I swear to God, she's been there forever. She's like the only North Korean news lady, I think. And but it's always for victory. It's like, oh yeah. But she's so passionate about it. She's in the garb, the garb and everything. Oh yeah, it's awesome. So lots going on in North Korea. I know I got things a bit scatterbrained in here, but as I find the information, right, so I mark it down. Good news for if you've got stocks in opium, because it looks like under the UN they were saying that in Afghanistan the opium trade is up by 47%. Yeah, thank God for democracy, JDAMs in the name of the women and children, right? Yeah. There's a big batch of helicopters that just got dropped off in Germany. The biggest, this is one of the biggest. NATO drills and stuff like that that's going up. Now, I think there's Black Hawks, which, okay, you could say Black Hawks going into Germany, they could be using that for a multitude of things. It's a very workhorse of a helicopter, troop transport. They could be using it for aid. They could be using it for all kinds of stuff. But they're also sending in Apaches, which Apaches are a pretty specialized killing machine. Probably the most deadly aircraft on the planet. It is a very good machine. Well proven itself. In fact, I think Canada, instead of having, I think we should have at least 500 Apache helicopters. I mean, or attack helicopter. Between the Eurocopter and the Apache, I don't know which one I'd like more. There's advantages to both. And if there was a third choice, that'd be the MIL-28 Havoc. That would be the third choice probably. After that, everything else like the Ruivok and the Z-10, I think, is what the Chinese have for their attack helicopter. And there's a bunch of them out there, but the best ones out there are definitely, I mean, the Apache's definitely more than proven itself. But I don't know how many helicopters were dropped off. But again, we see these big shipments to Germany. The shipments seem to go to Germany, and then they get passed to Eastern Europe. And with about 4,000 troops in Poland and hundreds of troops within 40 miles of the Russian border, yeah. Godwin's Law. This is something I couldn't figure out what I was talking about last time. We're seeing this all over the place. So basically, you agree with me, or you're Hitler. Yeah, that's basically almost every conversation about politics, given a certain timeline, will eventually, somebody will be compared to Hitler. We already see it with Trump. We've seen it with Obama. The one thing is, under Obama, there were similarities between Hitler and Obama, and major similarities too. I'm not saying Obama was a Hitler, but Obama was his own thing. But he was a genocidal maniac too. Obama's, over 4,000 people were killed under drone strikes. Funny how the left never, how they're not outraged by that. But that just shows you they're not critically thinking. I remember when John Cusack, the actor, was like, he goes, I can't support Obama anymore because he's murdering people, so to speak. Maybe not exact words, but it's like the drone strikes. He goes, what are the criteria for the drone strikes? What puts you on a drone strike list? We don't know what the criteria is, even still to this day. What constitutes the okaying of a drone strike? You know what I mean? And the amount of women and children that were killed in the drone strikes too, like there's over 1,200 of them were killed. So yes, okay, they might have gotten a few jihadis, but it looks like it's a very reckless program. So, what's its real purpose? That type of thing. So yeah, people need to be objective on that. Same way you need to be objective with Trump. And we're starting to get a bit of that, you see with Alex Jones, unfortunately, and Next News, where they're so pro-Trump that they're starting to do what the mainstream media is doing, where they're like, Trump can do no wrong. Well, Trump is doing wrong, and the thing is why. Luke We Are Change, I think, is on the other side, where he's a natural skeptic, so... and the same thing with the X-22 report. You hear him talk about, say, well, look, Trump has promised a lot, but he hasn't really delivered anything, and that's true.